I've got some Sidney Powell clips, and also we're going to talk about money, the money that the government's going to give us. I have a couple of different possibilities that it may be. I'm not sure that anybody knows yet what it's going to be, but we're going to find out. So stick with me here, folks. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I mentioned this video and linked to it in a previous video, but I want to focus on it a little bit for this particular one because this is a really good video you need to watch, especially if you're concerned about General Flynn and if you're concerned about justice in general, because Sidney Powell has been on the case of trying to uncover what was happening in our Justice Department since, well, a long time ago. And the whole Enron thing, I think, is when she really woke up to what was happening. And in 2014, she wrote a book about it. And since then, what she said in that book has come true. And so she has pretty much exposed all of the players and everything that's been happening. And she did it before it even happened because she knew this is how they work. And she was right. Anyway, I'm going to leave the link to this down below in the description. Remember, you may have to pop something open, click something to make it pop open. But it'll be in the description. At the end of it, they ask a few questions. And one of the people asked about McCabe and why did he get off and why wasn't he prosecuted for what he did? Well, listen to her response.
With Attorney General Barr now in charge, would you comment on the decision to not prosecute Andrew McCabe?
Yes, the McCabe issue. I read the declination on McCabe. It's a very narrow issue. They've only declined to prosecute him on the statements about his leaks to the Wall Street Journal. I am okay with that because I think they are looking at McCabe with a much bigger fish to fry. And I have heard that there are 2 sealed indictments waiting in the wings. I'm not sure what they're waiting for. At first, I would have assumed that they were definitely waiting for the ridiculous impeachment issue to be over. But I'm not sure now what the answer to that might be, other than maybe some people are trying to make a deal. But I think we will see some indictments within the next few months of the people who really need to be indicted.
And I agree with her. I've been saying this, if you have somebody who is guilty of a small charge, why use all the manpower and everything against that? And I have to say that in the legal eyes, that's a difficult charge to really make stick. I mean, there's ways he could get off of that. But the ones coming down the pike, he's not going to get away from. They're going to nail him for that. So he really does need to be worried, but not so much worried for the petty charge, but more for the big one. And I do think she's right that there are some indictments out there. She says she knows that there are some sealed indictments. She doesn't know why they're not coming out yet, but I think we all do, because there are so many of them that are going to be happening. And some of them may be unsealed even as we speak, right? I wanted to go on and show you this next one because this is the one I referred to in the previous video, and you need to hear this.
I have a 2-part question, Sidney. The first one is, where's John Durham's report, number 1? And number 2 is there such a thing in the law as race ipso facto? And the reason I mentioned that, when Hillary took her server to her private residence, that's race ipso facto, if I remember the old expression. Is there such a thing anymore?
Yes, it's actually res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. What happened was the double standard is what happened. I wrote an article for the New York Observer ages ago called The Countless Crimes of Hillary Clinton that went viral. I think Rush might have even read it online, on air. There are probably things she could still be indicted for, and frankly, I think should, because the Espionage Act very clear violations of the Espionage Act and really no issue about intent, despite President Obama proclaiming otherwise. And of course, you realize the reason that Hillary had to be protected was because he was writing her on that secret server using an alias, which shows that he damn well knew and had approved in advance her use of the secret unsecured server. On top of that, there's the Anthony Weiner laptop, which I don't know if you heard this. I wrote an article about that too. 675,000 Clinton emails when they got Anthony Weiner's laptop in a search warrant because of all his sex perversion issues. It was all the Clinton emails, the Clinton Foundation, her Secretary of State emails, Huma Abedin's emails. Lots of people emailed Huma as a proxy for Hillary, and it included what Comey called the I must wave my hands more than most people. The golden emails, because they were the BlackBerry backup emails that they were supposedly just looking for everywhere very diligently. Well, guess what they did when they found them on the Weiner laptop? They got a search warrant for things that didn't include the BlackBerry backup emails. So when they told us, when he stood there and said that day, oh, you know, we've reviewed all the emails now, there's nothing there, that was a bald-faced lie. They specifically did not look at the BlackBerry backups, and they didn't look at a fraction of the emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop. So one of the things, if I were the president, I'd do is demand the Anthony Weiner laptop and get it to the most trusted person in the military to take apart everything on it and then start using it. There's a lot that can be prosecuted, I have no doubt, on that laptop. In fact, I heard that the New York police officers who saw some of it, even though they're hardened investigators, literally had to go throw up. It's bad.
Notice she didn't really answer where's John Durham's report, which was his first question. But she did, in a way. He's not going to have a report. He's going to have indictments. So, you know, there's not going to be a John Durham report. That's not what he does. He's a U.S. attorney. He has already been impaneling grand juries, and he will provide the indictments. So that is his task. And when we're talking about the other stuff, that's what I was talking about. Anthony Weiner's laptop does indeed contain the files that we've been talking about for a long time. It's a folder called Life Insurance, and in it, there's enough dirt in there to convict many, many people, and they are high-up people, and that's why he had them under life insurance. So yes, that's what's going on, and that particular information will come out. Unfortunately, many of the officers who have actually viewed those files are now deceased. So I'm sure they can't testify, but there's a copy of it. Don't worry, it will come out. And General Flynn knows this because remember, this was a tweet that he posted before he stopped posting, you know, with everything that happened. He did stop posting on Twitter, but he tweeted this out before that. He knew, and he knows. So I'm sure he's told her what's really going on. And because she verified that, I think it validates that, yes, what we've heard about it is true. So the content on there is going to be something they won't be able to deny. And when it does come out, people will be horrified at what is there and sickened because it is that bad. Okay, this third one I want to show you is another question that was asked. So here we go.
Will those chuckleheads see jail time? And how much?
Yeah, I think some will see jail time. I think the ones at the top will see jail time. I'm not a big proponent of lengthy jail sentences for white-collar crime, but I think there is a certain benefit to having that experience for at least long enough to make you realize it's real. And then, for example, I was talking to Mr. Arnn about Madoff. I would have sent Madoff to prison for maybe a year, and then I would have put him on an ankle bracelet and made him live in Section 8 housing and work 12 hours a day in a soup kitchen. You know, he's not dangerous to society as long as you don't let him near a computer or give him any money. But instead of us paying $40,000 a year in tax dollars to keep him in federal prison, he could be out doing something to serve somebody else. And I would think, you know, the same thing would be true for Hillary Clinton and other people that may be in the scope.
Now, I typically agree with Sidney Powell, but on this one, on will these chuckleheads see time or do any time, I'm pretty sure they will. And I'm sure that it's going to be more than just a few years and then a release of some kind so they can serve in a soup kitchen. I think not. It's much worse than that because they're guilty of treason. They should never see the light of day again. I'm sorry. They should be incarcerated for the rest of their lives, and maybe those lives should be forfeited because of what they've done. I don't know, but of course a lot is going to come out before then, and you know, we have a long way to go. Okay, so I wanted to mention that, and I also wanted to show you a couple of different plans that I've come across that are being kicked around for the checks that President Trump wants to have sent to everybody. Now, at this point, I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be. The White House was talking about sending a $1,000 check and then also about 30 days later sending another $1,000 check. But there is, and that's what this one deals with here, but there is another thing that happened, and that was Eric Bolling, who used to be on the 5. He was on Fox News on the 5, and so he mentioned this. He did a tweet, and the tweet says, "Mr. President, please contact me." And he's talking about the stimulus plan. It's a good start, but falls short of actually rescuing the economy. A few adjustments and redeployment of stimulus, I can make this work for him. Okay, and he was actually contacted. And so, yes, the White House did contact him. My plan will be presented to the president this afternoon. This is great news. I will post the plan here after my chat. Well, this is the post of the plan, and I know it's kind of hard to see here. Let me see if I can find a better image. No, it has all the links, because I'll link to this one, and it has all the links to the different things. But this particular plan, yeah, I guess this one's a little bit better because, yeah, I can blow it up better. Okay, Mr. President, as America tries to come to grips with the illness that shall not be named, the economy has been decimated. Just the stock market alone is in the midst of a whopping 32% drop in a few days, which has wiped out more than $10 trillion from our 401ks and retirement funds. On top of that, consumer confidence is crashing. As a nation, we are cocooning. The U.S. economy is extremely reliant on our consumers. 70% of our GDP relies on consumer spending. That's why the current plans being floated just won't work. They allow for tax breaks, interest relief, etc. None address the consumer now. Here's a plan that will deliver a much needed shot of adrenaline into our economy and give our consumers some badly needed relief. I propose this. Each U.S. household at or below $200K per year gets the following: $1,000 for food, $1,000 for health-related goods and services, $300 for fuel, electricity, and transportation. Here's the most important catch. The money must be spent within 30 days. If you don't spend it, it expires because there's a second round coming in 30 days, if you, Mr. President, deem it necessary. We administer the money via debit cards, much like the current EBT cards. The many products which can be purchased can be decided by your bean counters. We want it to be easy to spend the money, and use it or lose it is a powerful tool for that. Okay, now, as I understand it, this is the proposition that he wants, is that people would immediately spend the money That way it would get the economy stimulated because there would be money going back into the communities. Now, that's not going to fix all of the issues because it's obviously not going to fix maybe the sit-down restaurants, although a lot of them have now implemented a curbside service. And some of them even had that before. It's just not a lot of people used it, but more people are now. And so, I don't know, maybe this will help really stimulate things. It's not going to take care of like the airlines and things along those lines, but what would you do? Then that's what I want you to put down in the comments. So if you get $1,000 for food, $1,000 for health-related goods and services, do you think you could spend that in a month? It's kind of interesting to think. I do wish there was some way to have an allowance for some of it to be saved because, I'm kind of a saving person. I like to make sure that I have some money in my savings. And I think it would be better for some of the people to have at least a couple $100 out of that they'd be able to save. I don't know. It all depends on how many people you have in your household. As for whether $1,000 for food for a month is going to be good or bad, I could never use $1,000 for food in a month. I mean, well, I guess I could, but then I'd have food everywhere. I'd have a lot of freeze-dried food if they let me buy that. But, $1,000 is a lot for a single person. But if you're talking about a household that has maybe 4 or 6 kids, that could be not nearly enough. They also have health-related goods and services. Well, I'm generally a healthy person, so I don't know that I would necessarily need that much money again. But I guess then it would revert to the government. I think that's how this is supposed to work if you wouldn't use it. And again, this is Eric Bolling's idea. Whether that's what the president will listen to or not, I mean, he's heard it. At least he gave Eric Bolling a chance to, present his plan. But who knows what President Trump's actually going to choose. It could be interesting. It would be nice to get that out there. But I think somewhere along the line, if you really want to stimulate the economy, I think you're going to have something that doesn't fit into those two categories, because I mean, like clothing allowance and, there are different things that you might have to use it for. I don't know if the $300 for fuel, electricity, and transportation would also include what happens if your car breaks down. I spent a big bunch of money a couple weeks ago on my car because some things happened to it. So, what happens if you got that? What happens, there are just some things that happen that are unplanned, and it would be nice to have that. But I guess if you've got food and you've got health-related goods and services, maybe that's going to take care of the big chunk of it. But again, also $300 for fuel, electricity, and transportation, depending on your job and how far you have to drive, it could help, but then again, it might not be enough. Like if you have heating bills, and it depends on what the weather's like and how cold it is, how much your heating bill is going to be. So would that work for it, or is it just for the electricity? Because I get my electricity and gas together, which probably a lot of people do. So I assume it would be for both of them. But anyway, so that's the kind of thing that you'd have to think about and how they're going to actually set it up. I think the debit cards, I know some people don't like debit cards, but I think it's probably a good idea. However, if you lose it, you're out of luck. Maybe there's going to be a PIN number or something with them. I don't know. It's a different way of looking at it, and it's a good perspective. I don't know if this is going to be it or if it's going to be the other, but obviously most people would like to have $2,300 instead of $1,000. And then they're also talking about the 1,000 two different times. It's a big chunk of the government spending, but isn't this what government is for? I think so. I'm going to leave the links to all these down below. Now I'll leave a link to this main page, and you can look at and see the different tweets and stuff, so you'll have that link. Anyway, then I wanted to show you this. Now, I don't know if there's anything to this. This seems a little picky, but then again, pickiness is sometimes what you have to look at. And the researchers were saying, hey, wait a minute. Whenever the president speaks, there's always this presidential seal on the podium. See, it normally has it right here. So that's what it looks like typically. And yet this is what we saw today. No presidential seal. So does that mean something? Well, I don't know. The 17th letter of the alphabet said here back in March of 2019, sealed to unsealed, and indictments coming. So could that be an indication that, yes, they are coming? And that's part of it. Pardon the bad language, but the researchers are known for that. So you have to kind of overlook it. But that's possible. And speaking of that, I have this. Now, I'm going to tell you right off that this is totally unverified. I would like for this to be true, but I cannot verify any of it. And if you know where this comes from, I would love to have some kind of source, because I tend to think it's not valid. All right? But I'm going to show it to you anyway, just because I want to ask you, do you know the source for this? Is it a valid source? Is it not? And I'm sorry that it's kind of blurry, but here's what it has to say. Not sure what the backstory on this is. Just thought it was interesting. So that's kind of why I'm sharing it with you. I would really like to think this is happening, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is. And we have to be really careful when we share stuff that if we don't know whether it's valid or not, we need to make sure everybody knows that we feel that way. When we share things that we just pass on as if they were true, it's not good for the whole movement and everything. So be careful. And like I said, this is a total disclaimer on this. I don't think this is valid, but it could be. And I just need to know where it came from. Guess we'll have to see how this all plays out. This morning at 4:30 a.m., our Prime Minister was served a criminal indictment by the U.S. for corporate and financial crimes. Media owners were instructed to historically brainwash everyone that the Prime Minister has the illness that shall not be named with his wife, and that they won't be leaving their house for a while. Tom Hanks was arrested 48 hours ago for, you know what, and he is currently being kept in a hotel room in Australia, refusing to fly back to USA. Next celebrity arrests will be Celine Dion, Madonna, Charlie Barkley, Kevin Spacey. All will claim the illness that shall not be named infections. So again, I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying this is someone's thoughts, and I don't know whose thoughts they are. Italy's airports have been completely shut down, as over 80 of Vatican and financial officials have been served same criminal indictments for financial crime and child sending children for things and abuse. Okay, sorry, I have to be picky about my words, so pardon me for that. You can read them. United Emirates have completed mass arrest of their own royal family and affiliates. Convicted Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein agreed to a deal in exchange for his testimony against hundreds of top Hollywood celebrities and their involvement in the drug business and child things. Instead of 55-year sentence, he only received 23-year sentence. In exchange, he provided testimonies against some of the biggest and most powerful names, including Prince Andrew of UK, former President Bill Clinton, former Vice President Joe Biden, Tom Hanks, Oprah, Ellen DeGeneres. There's a video of Ellen DeGeneres. She's been taking videos and posting them while she's under quarantine at home and doing her social distancing thing. And there was a really weird video that if you saw in the reflection, you could see the window behind the person that was taking the video. And there were two men that ran by, or at least two figures that looked like they were all in like military garb. And so it was really strange. They just kind of went by really quick, but you could see them. So anyway, all these different people and this stuff. I'm not going to go through the rest of that. But anyway, CEOs of major world corporations have been indicted and arrested. And the lab-created illness that shall not be named is a cover-up for mass mandatory vaccination agenda. So I don't know. Again, some of this could be true. Some of it probably is not. All right. So please just be aware that when you see things like this, be careful about passing them on, because there's absolutely nothing on here that tells me where this came from. And that always bothers me, because I like to have things properly sourced. So if there's no source on it, then, and this says, coming up there will be a 2-month complete shutdown of the world's most common operations, such as schools, stock exchange, and so forth. So will there be? I don't know. Again, a friend of mine sent this picture to me. I'm just putting it out there that there are a lot of these things. Be careful of which ones you pass on, because this one, I wouldn't really pass on to my friends because I don't know the source. And be careful and always dig up the source, because that's really, really important. Speaking of sources, this guy, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name's Ben Swann, double N at the end of the Swann. And he was actually working for a Fox News station, one of the local affiliates. And he did a piece one time on pizza and tried to say there are legitimate questions about this. Well, right after he did that, he suddenly found himself without a job. And I think maybe he ended up having to do some grunt work for a while, and then he finally gave up, and he is working independently now. And so his channel is always a good one, because I may not agree with him on everything, but he does a good job of actually researching. He's a genuine journalist. It is good to see him and to hear what he has to say. Now, he did some digging on the illness that shall not be named, and he came up with the, World Health Organization statistics that show very clearly that they've manipulated data, and they used it to try to point out that this illness that shall not be named is more deadly than the flu, and it's simply not true. So he has the data. He shows you from the World Health Organization. He shows you their own data to prove it. I think it's a really good video to watch. It's about 12 minutes long. Excellent video. The link will be down below. Make sure you watch that one. And then I wanted to show you this, because the British Army is putting out 20,000 troops. They're kind of having them available. And we have our National Guard deployed. And we also, remember there was, we sent a bunch of troops over. I thought it was 30,000, may have been 20,000. But we sent a big bunch over to Europe because we were going to be part of a training exercise. And then they decided, no, we better not do that at this time. But those troops, it didn't really state that they all came back home. So I don't know where they are right now. I don't know if some of them were left there to help things out. But I just thought that was very interesting. That's a lot of troops for Great Britain, I think. Then I wanted to show you this. And I'm going to do it without the sound, because I think you'll understand what's going on. This is a guy from, somebody from, I don't even know where he's from, to be honest. And I know that this is Dutch, and I translated it. So I'll show you the translation in a minute. But watch, they were having this debate about the illness that shall not be named. And all of a sudden the guy just did you see that? He just collapsed. Watch this again. He just goes down. And it's like, whoa, what's happening here? So they all go over, and he lays there for a little bit, and then he gets up. They get him up to a chair, and he looks pretty shaky, and they gave him a glass of water, and yeah. So this is what it has to say. Like I said, I translated it. If you speak Dutch, you can just read the Dutch. But this is one of their ministers from the medical care part of their government, became unwell during the debate about the illness that shall not be named crisis. He collapsed behind the pulpit and lay on the floor for a moment. He was helped to his feet, and I don't think he ran away. I think he left. But the debate has been adjourned. So, does the guy have it? I don't know. That would be interesting. Now, here's something I wanted to point out. Some of you may not even be thinking about this. I heard this on Rush Limbaugh the other day. There was a caller who called in, and he was a truck driver. Well, you know, the truck drivers are still free to drive. The problem is Pennsylvania shut down their rest stops. So they have no place to stop and rest. Now, the government has relaxed the restrictions because truck drivers have certain restrictions. They can only drive for so long. They have to take breaks frequently. And so there are a lot of rules that they have to abide by. And the government has relaxed those, so they don't have to do that. They can work longer hours during this time of crisis. The problem is, you still have to have a place to pull your truck over and rest because you can't drive forever. I mean, we're not robots. People are people. And they have to have some rest. They have to go to the bathroom. They, need places to eat. And so it's really, I think, putting a lot of hardship on the truckers lately because they're having a difficult time understanding how they're going to function appropriately when they can't have, these truck stops. And so I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if that's just in Pennsylvania or if other places have implemented that. I hope other places stay open. But the problem with keeping these rest areas open is you have to have people working there. And in order to have people working there, then they're not self-quarantined. And, what do you do? I think this is something that needs to be addressed. Now, I don't know how they're going to do that, but somebody was a trucker anon, and Dan Scavino, this one right here, they were talking about it, and, the truckers are getting it done. They are bringing things in, although I went to the grocery today, and wow, there are a lot of empty shelves, majorly. I know they're bringing stuff in. It's just, and there were people stocking it. It's just, people are just buying crazy stuff. You don't need that much, folks. It's okay. It's going to be all right. And if you bought freeze-dried food like I have, you don't need it. But anyway, so these were just a series of posts that you might be interested in. If you know anything about truckers or if you know some truckers, this is the U.S. Department of Transportation has a declaration of the commercial vehicles, and they've just really changed some of the stuff that has some of the restrictions so they don't have those. And so you can go through and you can see this, and you can check it out for yourself. I will link to this page, and then you can see the rest of them. All right, and then I wanted to show you this because the 17th letter of the alphabet, and for those who might not, you might be new to the 17th letter of the alphabet, or you hear me talking about it all the time and you're not sure what I really am talking about. I can't use his name necessarily, but it's this letter right here. And it is a military operation that is going on behind the scenes right now. And there are posts that you can read that you can find at this link that I will put here. And you can see some of the things that we've been given ideas and hints and tips on. We typically, the researchers and the research board, are about digging into actual government documents and finding actual articles and things that are out there in the public that just have kind of gone by the side of the road and people aren't paying attention to them. But they're very important information, and they show what's really going on in our world. And, contrary to what the mainstream media tries to tell us, they have a narrative, and their narrative is not truthful. And this is This particular military operation is a way to do an end run around the mainstream media. And it is done in a very legal manner. Nothing he posts is not legally done. It is all perfectly legal. But because of that, he has to be cryptic. So there are some times when it's difficult to know what he's saying. I am not a decoder. There are a lot of decoders out there. There's some very, very good ones. If you look around YouTube, I'm sure you'll find them, and they can help you understand the posts. That's not my forte. I do understand most of the posts myself, but I don't feel confident enough because I haven't been in the movement since the beginning. I came in at the end of February in 2018. And the word autists here means people who dig into things, the researchers that really like to dig and find out information about things. And some of them amaze me. I don't know where their sources are. I don't know how they come up with stuff, but they come up with some wonderful stuff. And so that's the autists. And so what they're trying to say is this was posted at 3:14, both of these posts, and it was basically saying that the enemy is no match for the spirit and resolve of the American people. And it cannot beat the love, patriotism, and determination of our citizens. Strong and united, we will prevail. So they're considering this a way that President Trump is cheering us on because it refers back to this particular post. And there are almost 4,000 posts now. I mean, it's getting up there. I think it's 3,800, 39. I don't know. I've lost track. So there are a lot of posts, and this was post number 314. So a long time ago, December 9th of 2017. So sometimes the posts that were posted 2 years ago, we're just now figuring out, and we're seeing things that make them clear to us. So again, had to be done that way, has to be a little cryptic because of needing to be very legal and follow the law. So it is all very legal, but it is also a bit cryptic sometimes just because they have to do it that way. It really is a team of no more than 10 that are doing that, and President Trump is one of them. So anyway, this I thought was interesting. This is totally a researcher's opinion on a coded message by Tom Hanks. This is what this researcher believes Tom Hanks was trying to convey to the rest of the deep state people. And so he says when they use this China false info, our Achilles heel, that they got some bad product and the only thing could cripple our bodies. That's a pain worse than war. Death by fake conflict is easier than facing justice. And so this was a post here that Tom Hanks did, and I assume that's on Instagram, right? And so this is what this particular researcher assumes that it means. Tom Hanks started out and said, "Hey folks, hey deep state friends. Good news, 1 week after testing positive in self-isolation, the symptoms are much the same. Good news, they've held me for a week, but the situation hasn't changed much. No fever, but the blahs. Lots of talk, but they don't have much. Folding the laundry and doing the dishes leads to a nap on the couch. They didn't believe the cover story and they put me in isolation." Again, this is what this person believes. I don't know if this is really the actual meaning of it, but this is how they talk. They use these channels to communicate with each other and to send coded messages. Bad news, my wife, Rita Wilson, has won 6 straight hands of gin rummy and leads by 201 points. Bad news, they've got us for whatever 6 is a code for. We aren't playing the game. Gin rummy only goes to 100. Playing the game is being a rat. And they know about the 201 scenario. Look it up. 201 scenario was where a bunch of them got together in October 2019. And they set up and practiced a scenario with an illness that shall not be named, pandemic. So, very interesting that then within about a month, all of a sudden we have patient 0. I have learned not to spread my Vegemite so thick. Australia is compromised, don't flee here. I traveled here with my typewriter, one I used to love. They tracked me through my cell phone. Our phones are compromised, which they all are, by the way. using cell phones. The NSA gets it all. So, yeah, don't use the cell phones. So, don't use cell phones. We are all in this together. I'm still one of you. And by the way, a lot of them have been saying together. We're in this together. I mean, Hillary and just several of them, I've seen their posts, their tweets. And I'm still one of you kind of saying, I haven't turned on you guys. I'm still in there. Flatten the curve, Hanks. We can defeat them. And then Hanks is his call sign. So I don't know if that's accurate, but they are communicating because they're all starting to use similar words and phrases. And I know that they're sending some kind of code back and forth this way. That is happening for sure. So I just wanted to give you one last thing here. This guy, he's a local radio host, but he has possibly contracted the illness that shall not be named. He doesn't believe he has, but he had some sniffles and some other things, and the doctor decided, he was coughing just a little, and the doctor thought it might be a good idea for him to quarantine. So he's not at work, but he did this live stream on his channel, and he mentioned one thing that I thought was kind of amusing. I'll leave the link to the whole thing down below, and you can watch it if you want to, but he was talking about how the liberals all of a sudden are very interested in purchasing GUNs. And so they're surprised that because, liberals have been telling them for years that it's really easy to get one, and all you have to do is you can just order them online and poof, you get one. And you have a GUN of your own. Well, they're finding out that that's not true, that actually there are laws that prevent that from happening, and that you do have to go through the regular channels to get one. And so, even if you buy one online, it has to be delivered to you by an approved seller that's local to you. So they can ship it to that seller, but the seller is the one that has to actually do all of it because they have to do paperwork, and you have to do paperwork to be checked. And so all the liberals are starting to go, oh, wait, maybe we were lied to about this. So I thought that was interesting that he said. He usually has several good things when he does this, so he presented a few. He also had his kids that were causing trouble and everything. He's trying to stay away from them, but, kids don't quite understand that dad needs to be away from them so they don't get sick. So anyway, he doesn't have it. He's pretty sure he doesn't have it, but he's just taking a precaution, and the radio wants him to take the precaution. And so they're working on setting him up so he can actually do his radio show from here, but I'll miss him. But hopefully he's going to keep doing this anyway. But he's a good one to listen to. I hope there was something in here that was interesting and informative. That's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.